Hi, welcome back to Happy Hour here on Beer on the Run. Today I have my friend Sierra, who is now living the van life. Sierra, welcome.
Thank you.
What are you drinking today?
I am splurging because I already ran and I have nothing else to do today because I live in a van. And I'm drinking the Great Divide Yeti Imperial Stout. It's a 9.5% and it's from Great Divide Brewing, which is based in Denver, Colorado.
And I have Great Notion. They made a special beer for the Apple Cup this year, even though the Apple Cup did not take place. It's called Sports. It's a hazy IPA. It's really good. It's my fourth can of it, my last can of it. So thanks for coming on. Cheers.
Oh, forgot it. I
Yeah.
got fancy. I have a glass today. Cheers.
Uh, so as I said, Sierra is living the van life. The end of September, she decided to end her apartment lease here in Seattle and go full time in a van. So you're coming up. You're in your third month of living. Oh, that's snow right there, by the way. We'll be talking about snow later on in this episode. So how's your first 3 months of van life going?
It's been going amazing, actually. I started out fully prepared for it to be chaos and not go smoothly. I grew up in the middle of nowhere with no running water or electricity and in the mountains, so I'm very accustomed to that, but I wasn't really used to the like moving around and trying to find places to stay. And I've been so lucky. It's been amazing. I've been finding these great places to stay for free. Typically I'm in like a national forest or BLM land, and just been finding places to stay for long periods of time instead of like hopping from one place to another. And my van's been running great. Sans the heater not working all the time. We're working on that. uh, who needs a heater anyway, right? But no, it's fun, and Snow is super happy. He loves van life. So
Right. Where are you located currently?
right now, I'm in Arizona in the Prescott Valley or Prescott National Forest. So
Right. And
yeah,
you said you don't necessarily need a heater typically, but it was what, 20 degrees the other night?
yeah, I got just below 20 last night, but the van is really well insulated, and I've got plenty of blankets. And Snow likes to sleep right next to me, so he's a good little warmer also. So we stayed warm, and like it's not like I don't have heat, so I can turn the van on and use like the van's actual heater. But I have a very nice Propex propane heater that was built into the van, and I'm troubleshooting with literally the one support rep for Propex in the entire U.S. Um, so I have some tinkering to do this weekend, and hopefully we'll find a solution next week.
Right. So I said the end of September, you decided to, that's when you went full time, but that's not when you made the decision. You clearly had to have planned this a little bit in advance, as well as purchase the van. When did first the idea come, like, I could probably actually do this full time? And, how long of a ramp up did it take to go from that decision to actually letting go your apartment lease?
And I had been considering and thinking about van life for years. I mean, it had been on my mind for probably, gosh, 10 years, like just traveling around and doing that. And then I've worked remotely anyway for the last 4 years. And that was when I started really thinking more and more about it. And then COVID hit. Everything that I loved about the city, I couldn't do anymore. And I lived in an apartment that I did not feel safe in. And by safe, I mean just health wise. Like I was on the sixth floor of an apartment, had to go up and down in an elevator. It was just a mess. And when my lease came up to renew, I did not want to stay there. And I thought, where do I want to go? And I didn't know. So I started looking into vans because I had no other time, and I came across this van. Didn't think timing would work out, and ended up working out. Long story, very long story short. And I purchased the van officially in July, and picked it up the first week of July, and then spent all of July and August and September just kind of traveling around Washington, getting used to it. So I had a nice transition period from apartment to van, and tested out the remote working in the van and made sure I had the right internet and all of that. And yeah, and then my release was up September 30th and home free, literally.
And how was the transition for Snow, your dog, to van life?
Oh my God. He loved it. So I was concerned. Like I think he loves the trails more than I do, which is saying a lot. And I was worried though that he might just like not like being in the van full time. But he loves small spaces. He always liked being in his crate, like he's crate trained. It's an adventure. Like it got to the point to when we were coming back to the apartment, we'd get out of the van, and usually when I open the van door, he's all excited and looks out, sees what's there, and I'd open the van in front of the apartment complex, and he would like look out the door and then look at me like, what the hell? Like, why are we here? And he wouldn't want to go back into the apartment. So he loves it.
Right. Looking behind you, I think we're in your kitchen right now. It's your spice rack. Is that where we are? We're in your kitchen.
It's part of my kitchen. It's kind of my bedroom and my kitchen. So I'm on my couch. Yeah, this is living area, and then spice rack long, and that goes into the kitchen area there. So
Right. So yeah, you actually did a video on YouTube for like a tiny home channel. I'll put the link below. But
yeah,
yeah, how did you get hooked up with that? How did they approach you for that? Did you approach them?
they did. So tiny home tours, and I don't know if Dave, who's the builder of the van, and he's on Instagram at Pibbs, Pibbs. Um, I don't know if he introduced me and he knew someone, or they reached out to him and he said, hey, I don't have the van anymore, Sierra does, or what. But yes, they reached out to me on Instagram, and it took like months to coordinate, because every time the videographer was in the same area that I was, usually I wasn't there anymore because I was off van lifing. So we finally met up in Bend, and he did the van tour, which was really fun. And he's a fantastic artist, a great videographer. So I was really pleased with the outcome of that.
Yeah, no, that was a fun video to watch. I knew I saw the van in person because when you went from being what you thought was a minimalist to actual being a minimalist, and you were giving away a lot of your stuff and selling your stuff.
Yeah.
And I purchased your desk, your standing desk, and so back in September, I got to see your van up close and personal. It's quite incredible. And hopefully once we can start traveling again, we'll meet you for some camping trips somewhere.
I love
Uh,
that.
yeah,
So many
so
places. There's all this room, and it's just me and my dog every time.
yeah. I mean, the cool thing about van life for you, it's been great for being able to socially distance. I mean, like you're in national forests and, BLM land. Um,
Yeah.
there's no one around you. Like I see your Instagram. It's not like you're not like the crowded trails of the state of Washington. You're actually in like wide open spaces.
Yeah, that's something that I thought a lot about also, like what was my responsibility for traveling and going into other places and making sure that I wasn't spreading anything, or being just respectful of, the land and other people's towns, even because I still have to get groceries and laundry every once in a while and stuff. But everywhere I've stayed so far, I've been finding trails that literally like nobody, like I have a Garmin GPS unit, so I send a text to someone so they know where I'm at. And if it wasn't for that, I would literally be nervous, because it's not like I'm on a trail and, oh, people circle around and I'll see, a couple dozen people, and they might find me if I fell down and crack my head open. Which I'm being very careful to not do as well. But yeah, so yesterday I did, an almost 9 mile run and saw zero people, like nobody. And today I saw one cyclist on the trail that I was on, and then a few that were cycling up like the Forest Service Road. The trails I was on in Sedona, I didn't go to all the popular areas that everyone told me to go to. I went on side trails there too, and literally no people on any of the times that I ran there. And I was running, over 20 miles a week there. So it was great.
I mean, I'm so jealous. Living in Washington, like these trails are so crowded.
They are.
I
Yeah.
don't get a chance to go to them that often right now, for a few reasons. One, I just try not to drive that much, but it's when I do go, like you will run into people no matter where you go. So that I'm totally
Yeah.
jealous that you got wide open trails. We were just talking about your dog Snow, and it was about a little bit over a year ago. It was September of last year. I know.
Yeah.
Kara, my wife, and I were out to dinner, and I think you were supposed to meet up with us. We were trying to coordinate to meet up with you, and then you sent us a text saying, I lost Snow. Snow, escaped. You were on a trail run. Do you want to tell a little bit of the story about Snow's disappearance and the search effort and the happy ending?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was actually the first weekend in October, and it was the last like nice sunny day that we were going to have in Washington, and I wanted to go on some cool run with great views. So I headed out to Mount Washington, which is less popular than many of the other trails, but it's very much like Mount Si view wise and distance wise, just a lot more technical of a trail and typically less people. Again, because Washington trails are so overrun right now, and were then even.
Yeah.
And Snow was only 10 months old, and he typically would be on leash with me. And sometimes I'd let him off leash if the trail was super technical, because it just wasn't safe. Like for him, he needed to be able to jump around, and he always would wait for me to come back up to him. And it turned out that there was a mountain bike trail that intersected with the trail that I was going up, and I didn't know it was there because it wasn't on the map that I had. I have since learned that maps don't have all the trails. So I actually have about 4 different apps that I use now to look at all the different trails and options that there are out there. And even then, sometimes I find them. So anyway, I had just let Snow off of his leash. He was going up a really steep, rocky section just so it was safer. And he was doing what he normally did. He was sitting at the top waiting for me because I'm much slower than him. And a mountain biker came up on that trail that I didn't know was there. And he'd never seen a mountain biker before, and he's a very skittish dog. He's afraid of most everything in the city. And the mountain biker had like the big helmet and all that, and he spooked and started running away, and the mountain biker didn't stop. And of course he was irritated that my dog was off leash in front of him, which I get. And I thought Snow would just like go off to the side of the trail and come back, and I was trying not to like yell at him, so I was just staying calm. And I went around a corner, and he was gone and the mountain biker was gone. So what I think happened is the mountain biker didn't stop, and Snow just thought he was being chased, and he just took off and got scared. And what I later learned is that when dogs get scared, they actually have like a switch in their brain that just shuts off. They don't recognize their owner's voice or even their own name, and they just get scared and they go into flight mode, and they just go until they find somewhere safe to hide. And I would have assumed that, your dog's going to recognize his human's name and, come back. So yeah, he was missing, and we looked for him for 28 days. At like the
Yeah.
worst time of year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, you said the beginning of October, it was starting a snowing season in the mountains where you were, about what was the elevation that, where he got
It
lost?
wasn't that high. I think it was maybe only around 4,000 feet or so.
Right.
But it snowed for the first time that year, 3 or 4 days after I lost him. And when I was up there looking for him, I actually saw his paw prints. I know they were his. And in the fresh snow, because I'd slept out at the trailhead, so no one else had gone up that trail that day.
You said it was 28 days. And so in that period of time, you, some friends were
Yeah.
at the trailhead almost every day. Um, I think you hired a team of search dogs. You hired someone with a drone. You had my wife, Kara, call shelters and post messages over all over Facebook. It was a full-on search effort for 28 days. So
Yeah.
you want to tell the story of the 28th day and just like how
Yeah.
Snow just, was found. I love this part of the
Oh
story.
my
So
goodness. Yeah, so I even had a Facebook page. It's actually still active because people wanted to know how he was that I was using. And I had set up a trail cam was one of the things that I had. And I'd set it up at the area that I had initially seen his tracks, because I was told that when dogs are lost, they typically will make a loop of where they got spooked to, and then back to maybe a scent trail, and then back to where they actually lost their human, and they supposedly would just stay in that loop. And that was one of the only places that had good cell signals. So I had it actually send me photos, and anyone passed by. Had a lot of photos of rats sent to me and people's boots as they were hiking. But anyway, yeah, it was a Saturday, and I had pretty much given up, and I kicked myself in the butt and went to I think I went to a Safeway or somewhere and made a bunch of copies of more papers. And I was about to drive out there, and my phone went off, and I saw pictures of him on the trail. And of course I flipped out. I think I sent a picture to you and Kara and to my friend Kevin and to Jeff. And I was like, oh my God, this looks like Snow. And his harness was like all sideways. And of course it was blurry and black and white, but I wanted it to be him. And I was afraid that I was just seeing things. So they were like, yep, that's him. And within an hour, I got 2 phone calls from people who saw him on the trail, and he wouldn't get close to them, of course. So I drove out there and started walking around. And then I had a friend, Kevin, he actually came out that night, and we hiked up to where he was seen and slept right on the ground, like open, and stayed up until like 3 a.m. talking. So we were hoping Snow might see us. Or hear us and then come out. And he didn't. So in the morning, we were sitting there in our sleeping bags on the ground as like hikers were coming up the trail. We looked super creepy. And I had to be like, hi, I'm the one with the lost dog. Like, that's why I'm a crazy person sitting on the ground. And I was talking with Kevin about what our next steps were going to be. We knew he was alive. We knew about where he had been. And my phone rang, and some guy says, hey, are you missing a dog? I'm like, yes. He lived in North Bend. He'd never seen any of the flyers that I had up or anything, but somehow he lived 5 miles away from the trailhead, which would have been about 8 miles away from where I lost him, and across I-90 and in North Bend in some residential area. And Snow had ended up in his back porch. Like, he had a back kitchen area with like couches and fancy stuff like that. And Snow was hopped up on one of the sofas on his backyard and was chilling out, and he had a tag on. So the guy just called me, and yeah,
Right.
it
And
was a very, very happy hike down the mountain.
for those that don't know Snow, I mean, Snow is actually a little skittish around humans. So for him to have trusted these strangers in this backyard to approach, and also I believe the tag was a QR code, and so
Yeah.
not only that was the person that found Snow in the backyard. If they didn't know what a QR code was, that'd be another folly. Like, it was just so coincidental that Snow trusted this human and knew how to use a QR code. And I remember you called, and like I was like in tears. Like, this was like, so how much was the Snow weigh in when he went on his adventure?
Yeah, and that's why I think he allowed someone to finally come up to him, is he was just in shock. So he had lost 14 pounds. When I lost him, he was 42 pounds. And when I found him, he was 28 pounds. So he was skin and bones. When I went up to the couch where he was at, he was just curled up in a ball. And of course, I'm, hysterical and bawling. And I go up to him and took my hand and like rubbed it against his nose. And it took him a good 30 seconds to even recognize me. And then once he did recognize me, he went crazy, just started jumping all over me and licking me and chewing on my ears and just went nuts and was all excited. But yeah, he'd lost 14 pounds. So
Because of the happy ending, is such a great story. You
it is.
you were devastated. We all were devastated for you and for Snow, and it's such an amazing ending to that story. And there's Snow right there, perfect timing. Snow, say hi for the camera, Snow. Yeah, there you go. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before I wrap things up, I have a couple quick questions. Like, one is back to van life. Do you have like a tip, one or two tips for someone that might be considering transitioning to van life?
Yeah, just do it, man. Just
That's a great tip. Yeah.
well, I mean, I feel like the financial aspect is scary. I was very lucky that I still had my job. I still worked full time, and I actually was able to finance a fully built out van. I knew that I wouldn't be able to build one on my own. I didn't have the time, and if I'd had the time, I probably wouldn't have the money, and it would have taken too long. If you live somewhere that you can buy something straight out and build it on your own property as you're finishing up other things, do it. Yeah, just it's not as scary as it seems. And I think the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is you just have to be really comfortable in your own skin. I mean, especially right now with COVID, like, I'm not hanging around anyone. I don't see anybody. I'm by myself all the time. And I was very comfortable with that before. But in van life, if you're not comfortable with just being by yourself for days and days on end, it's probably not going to be the life for you. Yeah, but
Right.
Just do it. It's amazing.
And then do you have like a tip or two, or even just like a word of advice if someone unfortunately does have their beloved pet run away on a trail or something? What tip do you have for them?
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. I have so many tips. Always have your dog chipped and, leashed if you have to, and have a tag on him. Don't ever expect that your dog has the perfect recall, even if he does. Snow has GPS collars now. He has 2 that we use when we go out if he's ever off leash. But if your dog does end up missing, don't yell and do not call your dog's name, which is the complete opposite of what you think you should do. Talk normally, walk around, leave articles of your clothing or something with your scent on it near where you lost him and down around a trail, or if you're in a city, even on that. Leave food out if you can. Where Snow was lost, the food didn't do anything because the rats just ate it all. So I started taking chicken broth and was spraying chicken broth on the ground, and that helped because that stayed.
Yeah.
When I found him, he was pooping pine needles for a couple of days, so I know he was trying to eat the chicken broth. Yeah, I think the number one thing that people do wrong is they yell and they call their dog's name. And everything that I've read, they say that the dogs might think that they're in trouble, and then they won't come to you. So it's better to just act normal.
All right. Let me conclude with our 4 pack of questions I ask everyone here on the Beer on the Run show. The first one is, what's your first memory of a good beer?
First memory of a good beer. This is terrible, but it was on a first date. This person that I was dating, I'm not dating anymore, said he loved beer. And I was like, ugh, I don't like beer, which I didn't because I'd had crappy beer before. And he's like, have you ever had good beer? I'm like, I don't know what that means. So he's like, okay, let's do this. We're going to go on a trail run. Then we'll go to this brewery, and they also have food and they have other drinks too. And I will order a beer. And if you don't like it, you don't have to drink it. But if you do like it, then you can order your own because I'm going to drink mine. I'm like, okay, cool. So we sat down and he ordered oh my goodness, it was the Rogue Nut, the nut ale, whichever, the dark brown nut, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like dessert in a glass, and I loved it. And within a year, I think I knew more about beer than that guy did and had tried more. And I love it. So yeah, that was the first memory of good beer.
Knowing your answer to the question number 2, it's a good transition. Number 2. So what's your favorite styles of beer?
Dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Dark beer. Yeah, so and that's really broad. My favorites are typically a really good Scotch ale, not Scottish, but the actual like Scotch ales. And then I love like the imperial stouts. I'm not typically a fan of regular stouts, but I think a good solid Scotch ale is amazing.
Yeah, you definitely have the personality of most people up here in Washington. You don't like IPAs at all, and like really dark beers.
I'll drink a triple IPA.
Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds good. Right.
I think it's more so like I think it's more so like the bitterness. You must like the West Coast IPAs are really bitter, and so if you do like more of a traditional, or if you do like a double or a triple, and it kind of makes it a lot more drinkable.
Hazy IPAs are nice. I like the hazy ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm drinking right now.
Infused. Yeah. Northwest Peaks in Seattle. A few years ago, they did like a mango and a pineapple infused one, and it was really good. I liked those a lot.
Yeah, when Kevin was closing up the Ballard shop, he had a few milkshake IPAs that he was trying to get rid of.
Yeah, those ones. Those are the ones I'm talking about, I think. Yeah, I like the milkshake ones. They're typically pretty good. But
so because even though you're currently in Arizona and you're very much nomadic now, but you're a Washington girl. So what are 1 or 2 of your favorite Washington breweries?
Yeah, well, because I was local to like the Columbia City area in Seattle, of course, I love, those local breweries. Northwest Peaks has an amazing Scotch ale, which is my favorite. May have hobbled home a few times after having a few too many of those. Flying Lion always does amazing dark beer, and they generally have good, like just solid, like their Belgian Strongs. I really like those as well.
You're going to miss Dark Beer Festival, by the way.
I know. I'm missing it this year.
I just saw the Facebook post for Dark Beer Fest at Flying Lion.
Oh my gosh!
I need to find my way over there across the bridge. So.
Yeah. I went last year, and I just remember I walked there, which was smart, and then I walked home, which was smart. It was good. Yeah, and then other breweries like not in Seattle area. I love Black Raven Brewing. They do some great stuff, and then probably like Silver City. And they both also have like really good solid Scotch ales.
Right, Black Raven's out in
Bellingham.
Yeah, Raven's in Redmond, and Silver City is over in Paulsbo or Silverdale, actually, I believe.
Yeah, and
Uh,
then Bellingham Brewing, they're great also, and yeah, there's so many, man. Yeah.
and now that you get to venture around the country a little bit more, so far, have you found one or two breweries outside of Washington that you enjoy?
I found a few beers. I haven't been to any breweries, which makes me super sad because I keep driving past them and a lot of them are open, but I'm not comfortable and I'm not going to go in there. But there was one that I drove through in Prescott Valley and it was like brewery with pizza and everything. And there was even outdoor seating and I like a little tear like as I'm driving by. I'm like, oh God, I want to go. Um, Crazy enough, I got some beer in Utah of all places, and it was like a 8%. It was some sort of an imperial stout. Also, I think they lied, and that was like a 12% or something. Because one can of that stuff, I was just like, it was intense, very good. And then there's a Scotch ale in a Nevada brewery that was really good. It was also called the Kilt Lifter, which is what Pike Place Market and or Pike Place Brewing in Seattle calls theirs also. That was really good. And then what's the other one that I have? Oh, there's a peanut butter stout or a porter or something I have in my fridge now that's also out of Nevada, and it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories. I know the snow story is definitely
Yeah.
really personal to you, but it touched all of our hearts, especially when you found snow. And I really wanted you to be able to share that. And then, your adventures in van
Well,
life.
thank you.
Like I said, I'll post your blog below so everyone can visit it as
Yeah.
you update it. So thank you again for coming on. And one day we will camp out somewhere together. So cheers, Sierra.
Cheers. Thanks, Jack.